Medicare for all as well, guys.
Healthcare week is months long, maybe years long
forever.
in this presidential campaign. Jess Gideon, thank you very much. Joining us now is Jess McIntosh, former director of communications outreach for the Hillary Clinton campaign, and Alex Burns, national political correspondent for the New York Times. A couple interesting things about this. Number one, by focusing on prescription drugs, that targets seniors, I think, to a large extent. It's a large concern for seniors, and those are voters that right now are lining up behind Joe Biden. That's very interesting. And also just deciding to get in with both feet to this healthcare discussion 2 weeks to the day before the CNN.
Sure?
2 weeks to the day
sure?
before the CNN debate. I was maybe getting it wrong yesterday. It is interesting, Alex.
It is, and it also gives her a space to talk about healthcare where she's not playing on turf essentially chosen by Bernie Sanders or Joe Biden, right? That if you are talking about Medicare for all, whether you're for it or against it, you are essentially having a Bernie Sanders debate. If you are talking about an issue that is deeply relevant to healthcare, but is not about whether or not we ought to have a Canadian-style healthcare system, you do have some space to sort of set your own agenda, define yourself in the eyes of voters. I don't know that it ultimately gets you away from the Medicare for all issue for very long, but it does create some space.
Because Kamala Harris has had a bit of a muddled message in terms of her health care plans. She has seemed to say different things at different times. But do you see the distinctions emerging now between the Democrats that voters will be able to grasp onto?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I think you see Kamala supporting, along with most of the Democratic field, a Medicare for all that includes some sort of private insurance option. You see Elizabeth and Bernie supporting a true Medicare for all that does not. This is really smart for her to get on prescription drugs. Literally nobody in the country is excited about prescription drug companies and how they handle American pricing. So for her to decide that this is the issue she wants to jump in on for healthcare simply makes sense. She's got this 3 a.m. agenda. Prescription drug costs absolutely fit into that. So I think it's smart of her to be able to reframe the debate away, as Alex said, from Medicare for all or not, because the healthcare question is actually larger than that.
You know who likes the discussion right now of Medicare for all or not? Joe Biden. He is using it as a wedge, a policy wedge with Bernie Sanders. Listen.
I understand the appeal of Medicare for all, but folks supporting it should be clear that it means getting rid of Obamacare. And I'm not for that.
What do you see there, Alex?
I see Joe Biden actually stepping into the not centrist, but center-left space in this race that he was expected to occupy all along. One of the things that was so striking in that first debate, and that in my reporting, supporters of Joe Biden were really disappointed by, was that he didn't sort of stake his ground as, yeah, I am the more moderate guy on this stage. And now you're seeing him do it. It's a little bit late, but as John mentioned, there is another event coming up.
2 weeks from today.
I think 2 weeks from today, where he will have the opportunity to do that. It does give him the opportunity to, really claim a faction of the party as his own, not just sort of continue coasting on, name ID and good feelings held over from the Obama years.
The risk that he has here, though, is that he comes dangerously close to using Republican talking points when talking about Medicare for all. There was a lot of Medicare, as you know, it will go away. Seniors will be left with nothing. That sounds suspiciously like Donald Trump. And as long as Biden is trying to appeal to the Democratic base during the primary, they're not going to like him engaging with this topic using that kind of language.
Very quickly, let's pull up the second quarter fundraising for the Democrats. It's just out. And I think the headline is that Beto O'Rourke has underperformed from, I guess, what his campaign expected. So he brought in $3.6 million. And that's just notable, Alex, because he was known as such an impressive fundraiser, certainly during the Senate race against Ted Cruz. And this can't all be because of the Vanity Fair cover.
No,
I mean, it really cannot be. So what else is happening?
Look, I think it shows you one of the sort of foundational assumptions about that campaign was that he had this huge small donor base from his Senate list, and it would just keep on giving and giving. And we see that that's not the case. I will say that for me, what stands out about the second quarter fundraising numbers is that two candidates, Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren, who have not held a single fundraiser between the two of them, have as much cash in the bank at the end of the quarter as three candidates, Joe Biden, Pete Buttigieg, Kamala Harris, who have been working major donors aggressively. It's about $47 million for the first two, $47 million for the second group. That tells you something really profound about the way the money game has changed.
That is really interesting. Small dollars, to be sure. And by the way, the dog maxed out in the Vanity Fair cover. That's the issue. That is why Beto O'Rourke didn't raise the money, because the dog maxed out. So that's simple.
Thank you for that subtext. Thank you guys for the conversation. All right, up next, we do have some breaking news from North Korea. North Korea